Hello my dear people, you're welcome to the channel. How are you all doing? I want to believe you're all doing fine. So my dear people, I saw this article, okay, which is knowledgeful and I feel is really an eye-opener, okay, and I bet that lots of us, I mean the new generation, okay, new generation of people like us do not know this much, okay. So because of that, and because they say knowledge is power, I just saw the need to share the article with us, okay. So I would really appreciate if you please listen, because I believe you're going to learn one or two things that you didn't know before. All right, so please listen. Please, I also want to encourage you to please go ahead and support this channel by subscribing to the channel, okay, and also turn on the notification bell so that every time I upload a video on this channel you will get notified. Thank you so much for your support. So I read, Ndị Igbo are undoubtedly an indigenous people presently lying within Nigeria. So international law will surely come into play if a conflict arises out of Nigeria's persistent institutional resistance to granting a seaport to EYEOPENER. It's often said that a lie told so many times, if unchallenged, may in course of time begin to pass for the truth. One of such is the terrible lie institutionally purveyed since the end of the Civil War, to the effect that IgboLand is landlocked, or that it has no access to the sea. The purpose of this essay, therefore, is to debunk that lie with some simple historical and topographical evidence that are even in plain view if you care to dig or do some physical exploration of your own. Suffice it to say that it is a profound tragedy that entire generations of the immediate post-war Igbos never bothered to check, but seemingly accepted this brazen institutional falsehood, largely intended to taunt the Igbo and put them down. A few that knew it to be false just didn't care anymore. That history was banned since the end of the Civil War made it worse. Plus the fact that most people don't take physical geography that serious anymore. Otherwise, they would have known that Abia, Imo, and Anambra states have varying short-distance paths to the Atlantic Ocean through Imo, Azumiri, and Niger rivers. It's not really rocket science, as you can easily confirm this if you know how to read Google Earth or conquer your fear of swamp snakes and walk through these areas on foot. There are also many other hardly explored waterways and slithering tributaries, including the remote reaches of Oguta Lake and Osakwa River in Ihiala, Imo State, that meandered through Igbo Delta wetlands to the southeastern ends of the Atlantic waterfronts. These rivers have varying lengths of short navigational paths to the Atlantic, and in some cases are far shorter nautically and even on foot than the Port Harcourt, Calabar, and Ibaka seaports are to their side of the Atlantic. Many of these pathways, including particularly the ones from the outer reaches of Imo and Azumiri rivers, terminate at the Atlantic at no more than 15 to 30 nautical miles to the beachhead. To put it in lay language, 1 nautical mile equals 1.8 kilometers. Thus, the contiguity of southeast, not even the greater EYEOPENER, to the Atlantic is less nautical miles than the Atlantic east to the seaports in Calabar, One, Ibaka, Lagos, and Port Harcourt. If you discount the territories excised from EYEOPENER during state creations and the damnable boundary adjustments, it will be far less. To be sure, Ikwereland or Iguacha, which bears the greater portions of the Port Harcourt seaport, was dredged up to 50 miles to the Atlantic front through the Bonny River, on a seaport was dredged up to 60 miles to the Atlantic, and Calabar Seaport was dredged 45 nautical miles to the Atlantic. Ibaka Seaport is about 30 nautical miles to the Atlantic, and the Lagos Seaport dredged up to about 50 nautical miles to the Atlantic. Compare all of these to Obuaku in Abia State, which is only 25 nautical miles to the Atlantic from the confluence of Imo and Azumiri River, which itself separately lies not more than 30 nautical miles to the Atlantic beachfront. The less obvious one is the little-known Oseakwa River in Ihiala, Imo State, which is mere 18 nauticals to the Atlantic, all with its 65 feet of natural depth, unarguably comparable to no other river in Nigeria. Additionally, what is geopolitically known as EYEOPENER today is far smaller than what it was and legally supposed to be. As far back as 1856, Baike, one of the earliest and credible geographers of ancient Nigeria, had this to say: Igbo homeland extends east and west from the old Calabar River to the banks of the Kwara Niger River, and possesses also some territory at Abo, an Igbo clan, to the westward of the latter stream. On the north, it borders on Igara, Igala, and Akpoto, and it is separated from the sea only by petty tribes, all of which trace their origin to the Great Race. Baike William Balfour published with a sanction of Her Majesty's government in 1856. But with that infamous post-war abandoned property policy and the egregious institutional injustices in boundary adjustments and the widespread anti-Igbo gerrymandering, Igbos physically and psychologically lost their vested ancestral lands, all to the point of not caring anymore about their historical contiguity to the Atlantic, which their ancestors beheld and called the Great Sea. The psychological beatdown got so bad that some of the descendants of these Igbo ancestors, nearest to the Atlantic and now lying outside Southeast, are no longer sure whether they are Igbo or not. The worst injustice was in 1976, when the Justice Nasser Boundary Adjustment Commission made a serious and targeted agenda of carving out core Igbo land territories into some neighboring states of the South-South. But that didn't quite make an absolute success of it. They missed the southernmost southeast lands that possesses rivers that meandered through slices of Igbo-friendly South-South territories and ended up at the Atlantic, thus unwittingly placing Igbo land and its rights access to the sea under the canons of customary international law. As it stands, international law of the sea guarantees Igbo land, whether it remains Nigerian territory or not, unhindered access to the nearest sea. In this case, the Atlantic, peacefully by the many short-distance rivers, waterways, and tributaries that originated from Igbo land but ultimately washed into the Atlantic through contiguous South-South territories. For avoidance of doubt, there's particularly the Obuaku confluence in Okwa West, Abia State, that flows through Ikot Abasi in Akwa Ibom State before expanding out and washing into the near reaches of the Atlantic. And the River Niger, which ultimately joined the Atlantic through a vast network of hardly explored creeks and mangrove swamps that's about the Bight of Bonny in the South-South. Nigeria is subject to the international law of the sea and is therefore bound to abide by its provisions. Should the need arise in a scenario of persistent sovereign operation of unidentifiable indigenous group. The others are the United Nations Treaty of the Sea and the African Union Treaties and Conventions on the Sea, including particularly the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, which Nigeria ratified and domesticated in 1983. The pertinent provisions are mostly embedded in the copious provisions relating to the collective economic and commercial rights of indigenous peoples lying within the treaty nations. Ndị Igbo are undoubtedly an indigenous people presently lying within Nigeria. So, international law will surely come into play if a conflict arises out of Nigeria's persistent institutional resistance to granting a seaport to EYEOPENER. So that's it, and this article was written by Aloy Ejimako, and he is a legal practitioner. So that's it, my people. Wow, I think this is quite very informative and educational, seriously, and I think I liked it. I hope you guys liked it as well and you've learned one or two things from it. So I also like to let you guys share your own thoughts and opinions, okay, about it, all right, in the comment section below. And like I earlier said, please do not forget to support the channel by subscribing to the channel, and also please turn on the notification bell, like and share the video, and thank you so much for watching. Bye bye.